So welcome to Parents Weekend, and welcome to Coffee with the Dean. I'd like to say Coffee with the Deans, but you really get two deans with you here today. So I'm Janelle Chiasera, Dean of the School of Health Science, and it's an absolute honor to be here today with you. I also have Colleen Thompson, who is our Assistant Dean for Student Services, here with us. Colleen, you want to say hi?
Good morning, everybody. We're so happy to sort of see you. This isn't quite the way we wanted it, but it's better than nothing. So thank you, all of you, for coming. And yeah, we hope we can answer your questions if you have any today. And we're excited to have you and, of course, to have your students with us.
So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to go over just some basic information again. A lot of you might have heard this. It's not going to be long, but it's just to kind of reemphasize what we have here within the school, because it really is an incredible collection of resources that will be really helpful for your son and your daughter, and we want to make sure that we go over those again with you. So I do want to start by, as always, saying that, you know, and you've probably have seen these slides before, you know, we are a large, comprehensive school that is kind of situated in this very intimate environment. We have the most incredible choices for students with regard to healthcare that runs the full gamut from basic science to laboratory science to rehab sciences, so on and so forth. And we'll cover a couple of those things for you. The interesting thing about that and why I share it to you is your son or daughter has access to not only faculty that are part of those programs, but also students that are part of those programs, and that can help them. A lot of times when people are interested in one of our graduate programs, it's kind of nice to hear from another student and to really get a sense of what that program is all about. We are incredibly comprehensive. So we are as comprehensive as any school of our type across the country in this very intimate environment. We have a little over 2,600 students in our school. That's across all of our programs, and I'll show you our programs here in just a moment. We were so thrilled to welcome 475 new freshmen to our school this fall, and 102 new graduate students, brand new graduate students. Those graduate students are in addition to the roughly 200 graduate students who are beginning some of our graduate programs who were in our direct entry program. So it's an incredible, like I said, rich resource for your son or your daughter who may endeavor to be in some of our graduate programs moving forward. I do want to say we also have, and some things to keep in mind is we also have the ability to, or we have some minors that are options for your students. And sometimes students are not only looking for a major, but they're also looking for a minor. And we do offer a few number of those, but those are options for your son or your daughter, in addition to the other programs that we have, whether it be our undergraduate majors, our dual degree programs, our direct entry programs, or our master's and our clinical doctorate programs. Either way, I think what's nice to know is our school really offers a comprehensive spectrum of health sciences programs that are designed to address really the evolving health needs of our society as we move forward. We build upon a really solid foundation of basic sciences and liberal arts, and we offer this kind of in a student-centered learning environment with a great deal of interprofessional collaboration, innovative teaching, and hands-on experience. And those are all really important aspects that help provide a foundation for your son or your daughter to be successful. So I do want to say that we offer programs that are basic science, that are really heavy in kind of understanding not just science, but the medical science behind it. We have laboratory medicine program, rehab science type programs, critical care programs, diagnostic imaging, as well as those programs that are kind of focused on physical and emotional well-being. And again, this is just another rich resource for your son or your daughter as they're here, not only students that they can talk to, but also some of our faculty that they could actually talk to throughout the process. I think what's really, really special about our school, and I believe what helps us be so successful in what we do, is we provide wraparound services. And this is why we have our assistant dean here today with us. She actually is quite instrumental in the success of a lot of our students and helping guide our students, or in your case here as parents, your son or daughter, not only through the program that they want to get into, but also as they start to explore. Some of you may have sons and daughters that aren't quite sure what they want in healthcare, but they know they want in healthcare. We're here to be able to provide you with that support so that your son or daughter could be successful. We have those specialized career services and professional development services within our very own school. We have 2 deans that are dedicated to supporting your son and daughter, whether it be academic support, helping your son or your daughter find academic coaches, peer tutors, peer fellows, which I have to let you know that those are all free of charge, or some career development support, which is either one-on-one support for your son or daughter as they're trying to identify the career that they may want. We also have, from a career development perspective, an annual career fair that is specifically dedicated to health sciences professions. We did this last year and had about 72 companies that we brought to campus so our students could engage with possibly their future employers moving forward. We also have a rich web-based resources available to your son or your daughter where we can connect them to jobs and internships. It's called our QU Career Connections website that connects your son or daughter to hundreds of jobs and internship opportunities so they can also explore some opportunities to get some hands-on experiences. And we also have the availability of them to connect with our alumni through Bobcat Connect, which is a web-based resource where we have over 2,000 alumni that are registered to help create networks with your son or your daughter. So not only do you have access to our students and our faculty who are in these fields, but your son or daughter also has access to alumni that are out there as well. And we believe that these wraparound services that we provide really helps us be successful. So let me talk a little bit about that success. I believe we are incredibly successful. So from an undergraduate perspective, we have a 99% success rate. So just 6 months after graduation, 99% of our undergrads are either employed or they're in graduate school. And what's really fascinating about that is there is a projected growth in the occupations that we have for our healthcare fields, and it's projected to grow by 15% through the year 2029. And I think this becomes really important as we kind of enter into this environment where it's kind of an uncertain environment with COVID. It's nice to know that not only are we really successful at what we do with our graduates just 6 months after graduation, but our healthcare fields are growing as well. So from a graduate perspective, we also do a really good job here for students who go through our graduate programs. Our graduates surpass the national average for board exams across the board. And I do want to say that while we expect our students to do well while they're here with us for their years within our graduate programs, a lot of them also have to take board exams after they graduate, whether they're in undergrad or graduate programs. And they have to pass those in order to work. So across the board, we surpass the national averages. And for 7 of our programs, we are at 100% pass rate. That's how successful we are. So I wanted to share just a little bit of that data with you. The other thing I wanted to share again with you is the return on investment. The importance of an education like Quinnipiac. We rank in the top 3% of US universities for long-term value and in the top 100 for median tenure earning. And what's interesting about that is we are also in the top colleges in the United States for placements following graduation and for earning potential for decades past just that 10-year earning. So it's been, this is a great field that your son or daughter chose to be in, and there's great opportunities for them. The one thing that I want to show you here today that we may not have shared with you before is kind of this one-stop guide that was developed by our assistant dean that actually provides really school-specific information for your son or daughter so that it's all at your fingertips. And this is really a comprehensive advising website that contains information for your son and daughter that they need regarding things like policies or academic advising or career services, or probably, like Colleen says, the most popular tab, which is How Do I? And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. So Colleen, do you want to go ahead and take over, and I'll get us to the correct screen?
Great. And we're still kind of admitting a few here and there, so I've been just kind of popping down to that list and letting people in as they trickle in. Yeah, and a couple of years ago, one of the associate deans and myself decided we needed a place to sort of house some material for frequently asked questions. And we started it really with freshmen in mind, first-year students. And we found that the upperclassmen still use it regularly, as do the faculty, which is kind of fun. So we wanted a place that the students could quickly find answers to their questions. And mind you, these answers exist kind of all over the university and with their advisor, but this is a bit of a one-stop shopping, so they don't feel like they have to keep on navigating around. So Shelley Candler and myself, she's another one of the deans on our dean's team, decided to develop this website. So we won't show you the whole thing, but first of all, know that your student absolutely knows about this. And if they don't, they've been told. So I do want to say to you the importance of making sure the students are really reading their emails and communicating with their academic advisor at this time in their career. This is a tough time for them, and communication is a little more challenging, no question about it. So we're trying to make things easier for them by communicating regularly, but not so much that they're tuning us out. I have 3 children of my own and just put the last one through college, so I know exactly where you guys are coming from, and I know there's a point where he tunes me out. So we make communication with the students once a week. From me, they get an email that's called Happy Friday. And it tells them so many events going on around campus. It also tells them important dates, like when are they going to register, or when is the last day to withdraw from a class. So we really communicate on a weekly basis with these students. So up here at the top, you can see a couple of tabs across the top, and the link to this website I keep in my signature, and I've sent to the freshmen quite a few times by now. So there is some links to university policies, things like graduation requirements and how to appeal a grade if you're not happy with it. What are the criteria to make the dean's list? What are the criteria to graduate? I know that seems far away, but trust me, it's going to go by in a flash. Probably the student's favorite tab is the How Do I tab, because this is the question, and Shelley and I we were picturing all the questions we get, and they all start with how do I? How do I change my major? How do I declare a minor? How do I get into a closed class? I get that one a lot. How do I figure out my GPA? That's kind of an important thing when they know the criteria for their professional program or grad school. How do I retake a class that maybe I didn't do too well in? I want to try again. How do I take a class in the summer or away from Quinnipiac? What about study abroad? How do I withdraw from a class? How do I take a leave of absence? We hope that doesn't happen. Or even withdraw from the university. Not, of course, what we want, but we want them to have access to all these answers right at their fingertips. So I would say that's probably key. And if your student is asking those kinds of questions, you can refer them to me to remind them about this website, or certainly can refer them to the website itself. There's a little tab on advising, so that they just get a feel for where do they find their advisor, a little bit on email etiquette. You can imagine that students these days are used to speaking in, I don't know, what is it, 200 characters or whatever a tweet allows. You can tell I don't tweet, so I'm sorry that I don't know my characters, but they speak text speak, and that's not going to work when they email their professor. So we actually have given them a little bit of guidance on how to professionally email a professor or their advisor and get used to that. We have peer advisors available. This is a really nice resource for our first year students. There are 2 peer advisors in the School of Health Sciences. They're available a total of about 15 hours a week. They can make an appointment with them virtually or even in person, socially distant in the offices. So that's an option for them as well. Self-service is the, what do I call it? I guess course management system or registration system that your students are going to use to register for classes and to look at their progress towards their degree completion. So it's a really important tool for them to be using regularly, but it can be confusing at first. So we gave them a little tutorial on how to use self-service, understanding their progress. We're always throwing out terms at students like take a UC, and they say, what the heck is a UC? So those kinds of things are defined for them, and a little reminder about things like transfer credits. I'm sure some of you have students who brought in transfer credits or AP credits. Even just registration, it's coming up. So your students may have already started to ask you questions or let you know that it's coming, and it's a busy time for them. If you recall, they registered, last time they registered was way back in June, and they had help, right? We helped them through that process. This time they have to do it on their own. So they need to really take the steps to understand how to use self-service. And then we link them in just services across the university. So that next tab is our Office of Student Accessibility for students that have accommodations, or maybe they need accommodations and they want to talk to someone about that. Our Learning Commons, Dean Chiasera referenced that. I cannot speak enough about the value of the Learning Commons and the services they provide there. Your students are taking some challenging sciences as freshmen, and we understand that that can be challenging during this sort of stressful time anyway of COVID. So get help. And I always tell the students, don't wait until you're doing poorly. Jump right in. There's help available. There's peer tutors. There's something called study tables where they can sit alongside. And I see someone's commenting, thank you, Lisa, that the Learning Commons is excellent. They have academic coaches, they have academic specialists, and peer tutors. And sometimes the students do better hearing from another student. And the cool thing about peer tutors, and there's even something called peer fellows, those peers took the class that your student is in and they did well. You can't be a peer fellow for a class like biology unless you earned an A. And the other thing is they try to link the students with a peer that had the same professor. That's a good idea, right? So they get a sense of understanding the expectations of that professor. So if your student has not utilized the Learning Commons yet, it's time. And we told you that it's free. My youngest son went to Syracuse University, and he was not a math student. It's not his gig, I'll tell you what. So he needed help with math, and I sent him, as mommy would recommend, go find your whatever it was called at Syracuse. Guess what? He had to pay. I didn't know that. Well, I had to pay. So this is a great resource for your students, and our peer specialists and academic specialists and coaches are there ready and willing. I wouldn't recommend they wait till the night before their exam, so they need to kind of jump on it. We link them up to the student health and wellness, student wellness services, counseling is there. Great opportunity for them if they need to talk to someone. We have services available, and just student health in general. We know there's a lot going on with health these days. And the other thing that Janelle mentioned was careers, and I'm sorry, the last one there is financial questions. That's the one question I don't answer on my own. I'm always afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing about money. So I send them to financial aid or the bursar's office because they know the money stuff and I do not. So I don't ever want to tell the student the wrong thing, and their academic advisor isn't going to answer money questions either. So that's a good resource for them too. And the last tab there is career services. So we have an assistant dean whose title is Assistant Dean for Career Development, Cindy Christie. So she helps the students, certainly she'll have conversations with students about sort of career exploration. But for those of you, the students are already know what they want to do or are in a professional major already, she's helping them with resume development, networking, linking them up with that Bobcat Connect that Janelle mentioned, where they can find resources from alumni and grads of the university. So
Cindy Christie is available for our students, and it's a terrific resource for them to have. They may not be quite ready freshman year, but by sophomore year, they're already maybe thinking about shadowing or internship opportunities. And I'm guessing some of you have questions about that, because this is a tough time to be doing those things. And we can certainly talk about that. So this is their one-stop shopping, right? This is where they can be referred to by their advisor. They, of course, are going to meet with their academic advisor in person, well, Zoom person. But nonetheless, this is just a good resource on a regular basis for them to just go get those quick answers. And I have the link in my signature in my email, and I know many faculty do as well, or they have it on their advising website. So all the advisors have an advising website. It's a Blackboard site. So your student is in a Blackboard site for advising, and that's where they can make an appointment with their advisor, or they can just email them. So I think they all know who their advisor is by this point, but maybe they don't and they're afraid to ask. So we'll definitely see if we can link you up and get you answers to these questions as well. So maybe we'll entertain some questions now.
Yeah. So Colleen, thank you so much. I did want to just take another quick moment to, I'm going to get into the chat room because I know that there are some questions that people have. So I'm going to get into the chat room in a moment. But what I do want to recommend you do is to make sure that you take time to stop in to some of these other sessions that are being set up today. So there is a parents town hall where you actually will hear from President Judy Olian and other university leaders. This is really an opportunity for you to ask them questions broadly about the university. There is a great session that is titled Inside Bobcat Bubble. And that gives you an opportunity for you to understand what life inside what we call the Bobcat bubble is, that protected bubble for our students through COVID. There's a session on health and wellness. Colleen mentioned the Learning Commons. Make sure you take time to go to the Learning Commons because it is an incredible resource. So I encourage you to go to some of those other sessions because those are incredible resources that we have for your son or your daughter. I do want to tell you, just like we have an advising update, there is also a Back to Bobcat Nation website. And I am certain that you probably have seen this. Your son or daughter has probably seen it. And they actually have a tab that is specific for students and families. So if there's ever anything that you wanted to know, any of the latest updates about COVID on our campus, including some data that we have with regard to how much testing are we doing, how many positives, what is our positivity rate, things like that, that is all on this website for you. So I did want to make sure that we showed you the Back to Bobcat Nation site. It's easy to get to right from the the Quinnipiac University homepage. You can type in Back to Bobcat Nation, and we can that'll get you to the updated COVID site. So I think for us, the only thing I want to leave you with just before we open it up for questions is just our contact information. If you want to reach the dean's office, and I will tell you that it's the deans that man this actual website. So when you email shsdeans@qu.edu, we will be the ones that are answering this email. And we tell the students the same thing. You will actually get a dean that will be answering those questions for you. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. And Colleen, I'm going to start here maybe at the our daughter is currently undecided in the College of Arts and Sciences and wants to move over to health science. How does she find a new advisor in the College of Health Science? This is a great question.
That's a really good question. So she's in the College of Arts and Sciences, and it sounds like she's interested in changing to the School of Health Sciences because maybe she wants a career in healthcare. You see this email right in front of you? I'm going to ask you to scribble that down. We make it as easy to remember as possible. So shsdeans@qu.edu. When she does that, it's probably going to be me that answers. She could also email me directly, colleen.thompson@qu.edu. But just in case you forget my name, then SHS Deans is easier to remember. So she should put an email out there and I'll contact her. We'll have a chat on how she can do that. We can't change her to an advisor until she changes her major into the School of Health Sciences, but there's a whole process and we can definitely work that out. That is not a problem at all.
Great. Thanks, Colleen. The next question is, when is the next career fair for health sciences? So I can start with this one. I know we have two
Right.
career fairs that happen a year. One happens in the fall that I believe is more broad. The Health Sciences Fair happens in the spring, Colleen, if I'm correct, and that's the one
Yep.
where we had last year about 72
Exactly.
health professions there. So Colleen, did you want to kind of capture on, add to anything I might not have gotten correct on that?
So actually this week, this coming week, I think it's the 20th, it was in my Happy Friday, so tell those students to go read that. The university-wide career fair is this week. And then, as Janelle said, yeah, in the spring is when we do the health science only one. I don't know that the date's been firmed up yet. It's usually the end of February, I think. But they get tons of notifications about it. That's a great, even if they're still only freshmen or sophomores, that's a good time to go check out what are people looking for, what kinds of jobs are out there, and they could maybe find summer opportunities and shadowing and things like that. Good question.
Thanks, Colleen, and thank you for that question. There is a question, in the COVID Zoom era, is it easier or more difficult to get into classes? And does physical distance limit the class size or Zoom increase? I think maybe does it limit the class size?
Okay. Do you want me to do that one, Janelle? Or you can add on if you.
Sure.
So we're doing something called QFlex at the university. I'm teaching this semester. So in the COVID era, and that's a good way to put it, it limits the amount of students in person in a class. It doesn't limit the class size in general. So if I have 30 students in my class, I can only have 15 physically in the room, because we have actually gone into every single classroom and university space to assess the correct number of students that can safely be, correct number of people, not just students, so including the instructor in a room. So they all have a big old number on the door that says occupancy 8 or whatever it might be, and that's all that can be in the room. So the rest are then put in the Zoom section of the class, and then they swap, right? So we don't only have the same kids in person. So then we swap, and depending on how often the class meets, is how often the classes are going to be held. It kind of brings us to a good sort of segue of extra information, is that in the spring, the College of Arts and Sciences offers the biology, the math, the chemistry. So a lot of your students are mostly taking classes that are offered by the College of Arts and Sciences and not their health science classes yet. So they're hoping that we get more of these kids on ground and having more of an on-ground experience. So there will be more sections offered on ground in the spring for students that maybe want that. They'll have more selection. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think, is it easier or more difficult to get into the classes? I'm not quite sure we've seen any issues.
No.
Able to get into the classes. What's kind of nice about what Colleen had said about this model of QFlex, what's really nice about it is it gives the student a little bit more option to how they want to do something. So for example, if they're not feeling well and they need to stay home, they have that opportunity to do it via Zoom. If there's on ground and they are part of the cohort that goes on ground, they have the opportunity to be there as well. I think in the school like ours, we're doing a really good job of balancing these in-class engagement experiences with the online. So our students typically, and I hope I'm not speaking incorrectly, Colleen, we are trying to balance that a little bit more, and I think we're doing a pretty darn good job of it within our school, so that the students do have that hands-on and can still remain engaged. Is that fair to say, Colleen?
I think that is. I think that's very reasonable. And the student experience is obviously our top priority. So if the feedback we get is they want more on ground, we're doing everything we can to accommodate that
in the spring semester, because it looks like some of the students might prefer that. Some really like the Zoom experience and some prefer the on ground. And certainly you want to have the opportunity for both.
Yep. There's a question here about the dorm Wi-Fi has been dropping. So it's been dropping students from their Zoom classes. So the question is, what's being done to enhance Wi-Fi to support the flex model? So I think I'll start this one out. There's a couple of things. So the dorm Wi-Fi, might be dropping the students doing Zoom. I would say there are some faculty that actually record their lectures. So there's an opportunity for the student to go back to get that information if they need to do that, or if they're dropped for some reason or another. I certainly, I certainly, Colleen and I can bring this up to Fred Tarka, who's in charge of IT on campus, to make sure that they know that that is an issue. And we encourage your students, when they get dropped or have issues, contact SHS deans at qu.edu, and we can send emails immediately to try to help support them as best we can. But I do believe there are a fair number of faculty who actually record their lectures, so that could be available a little bit later. Colleen, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's good advice, is to have them reach out quickly and, for lack of a better word, complain, but they have to tell someone, right? So we've got to figure that out, what the problem is, or if it's just one dorm. To be honest, I have not really heard that complaint, so it's good for us to hear that today. My students in my own class, no one's really had any trouble. There was trouble just the other day across campus. There was a little networking glitchy thing on Friday. So, but I think that got resolved, and the students usually get an email that they're working on something if there's a problem. But thank you for pointing that out, and we'll definitely bring it up.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen, for adding to that. So there's another question. Are there any changes expected for additional in-person classes for the spring? It's challenging for some classes to be online, like anatomy and labs.
Yeah. I think yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for spring, the university really has listened to feedback from students and to feedback from faculty, and really had made some significant changes to the way that they're approaching spring semester. And I think Colleen had alluded to some of that. We are really going to be putting some priority on those classes that really truly need to be on ground and in person, so that we can accommodate those better. So I think for spring, there are some additional in-person classes that you'll see that weren't available in fall. So the university is working on that, and we are working on that as well.
Yeah, and that I'm just going to add quick, the anatomy lab in particular is a class that you're bringing on ground in the spring. So your students should look carefully when they register
for the opportunity, because they'll choose, right? So when they choose the section that they want, make sure it says on ground if that's what they want, because there's going to be definitely on ground sections of Bio 212 in the spring.
Great. And then let me just look, there's another one here. I think someone needs to log off, but they said thank you for helping the students. The students are having a wonderful experience, and that, is really, really nice. We are trying, and I'll tell you, our faculty are working day in, day out. QFlex is not only new to your son or daughter and to the students, it's also new to our faculty. And I think our faculty are really doing a tremendous job with still engaging our students, allowing our students the opportunity for high quality. And then I also will say that there's a lot of kind of non-academic engagement for them as well. Our direct entry physician assistant students, they're called ELMPAs, they actually had something called Pods on the Quad a couple of Sundays ago, and I actually had an opportunity to go there to see them. We all were wearing our masks, we were 6 foot distancing, and we were engaging in things like cornhole and spike ball. I had no idea what spike ball was, but I played spike ball. And they were doing speed meetings with other students. So the university is doing really a phenomenal job with not only engaging our students academically, but also non-academically. There is a comment here that and I might have missed something in the beginning, where a faculty had responded that it wasn't their problem. And I wonder if this has to do with them being logged off or dropped from the Wi-Fi. And the comment is, it's not an acceptable response. And I'm going to tell you, you're absolutely right. So what I would encourage you to do and to tell your son or daughter is, absolutely email shsdeans@qu.edu, and we will take care of it. I'm going to stop sharing, and so we can so we can see more faces, and just want to open this up to see if, you know, anybody, go ahead, you can raise your hand. You can, you know, put HU in the chat for hand up if you want to do that, and we can get to some of your other questions. What other questions do you have for us?
I think they can unmute themselves to ask a question too, or we can unmute you. So if you want to talk to us.
Yeah, we're here.
It's like being in class for me. I actually am enjoying Zoom to an extent with my students. It's kind of fun to see their little faces up close.
You know, Colleen, there is a question. So there's a question about my daughter's a junior in OT. Do you provide assistance in finding internship positions over the summer or during semester breaks? Colleen, do you want to talk about our internships?
So if they're in occupational therapy already, which it sounds like they are, they're a junior, they're probably in our master's OT combined program. So that would be a great opportunity for them to chat with. Certainly Cindy Christie, who I mentioned, will help with internships and placement, but also their academic advisor, because the OT faculty are pretty well positioned and they may have great suggestions. Their academic advisor or the chair of occupational therapy already, they have a lot of things up their sleeve that they recommend that their students do. So that, I think that would be a good place to start. And we want to make sure that they have an experience that is appropriate for what their interest level is in occupational therapy. There's lots of different audiences that you want to reach out to with OT. So I would start with their advisor, chair of OT, and then the assistant dean for career services.
Colleen, I think I might have missed a question. And this question is, why are some science labs online instead of in person? My daughter has a physics lab online and it's very challenging. I think I missed that question and I apologize to whoever wrote that. But Colleen, can we maybe talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So remember that de-densification that I described to you earlier. So the classroom can only hold so many. That's true for our labs as well. And so in trying to fit all the labs into the lab space that we have, in fact, some of the labs did end up going to an online format if it was a suitable experience. We've been offering, for example, physics as an online offering in the summer for quite some time. So I think they thought that was a good one that they could readily convert to online during the regular semester because they were prepared for it already. But as we mentioned, the hope is in the spring there'll be more on-ground offerings so that your student may find it more that they choose the on-ground one instead of online if that's something that they prefer. But I do understand that almost all of the physics labs were online this fall.
Great, Colleen, thank you. We have one more question. Is it common for occupational therapy majors to have a minor?
That's a good question. It's not that common. And the reason is that, so the occupational therapy majors, if you have a student in that combined undergrad grad program, they have a pretty fixed schedule of classes. So they don't have a lot of open electives to pursue a minor in a field outside of the School of Health Science, like psychology or sociology or something. However, a lot of times we get students, you know your kids, they're a pretty bright group, and they come in with AP and transfer credits. And so if they have a lot of credits that they're coming in with and they have room in their schedule, they might have more room to pursue a minor. So that is definitely a discussion with their academic advisor to really go through how much room do they have and when can they fit things in, because OT students start taking classes in their professional program by junior year. Good question.
We have another question, Colleen. Who can upperclassmen students meet with to further evaluate their interest in OT? Or I'll even add, if I might just change this a little bit, someone had asked this question, not just OT, but also PT, physician assistant. So how can they meet with people to further evaluate their interest?
So I think if I'm interpreting your question correctly, that student is not in the OT program. They're interested in OT. Is that correct? If the parent wants to clarify for me. It sounds like
who can upper class students meet with to further evaluate their interest in OT? So if they're not in OT, but they're interested in OT, oftentimes they're students that are in our health science studies major. So health science studies prepare students for careers in all aspects of healthcare. I advise students in health science studies. So I have advisees who are applying to OT grad school as we speak. Or to PT school or med school or dental school or optometry or pharmacy. I'm not making these up, but these are all my seniors. They all do lots of different things. So it prepares them for any career in healthcare. It's a very flexible major. So that student, if they're health science studies, would want to chat with their academic advisor about what are the options for choosing OT or any professional program as a sophomore or a junior. What do they need to be getting ready for? So, because the pathways, while it's a flexible major, we customize it to meet the needs of the student. So if a student said to me, I think I want PT, I'm going to make sure they take physics and this really cool class we offered called the Physiology of Human Performance. But guess what? PT students don't need to take organic chemistry, so I'm not making them take that class, right? So that their academic advisor can advise them really towards that career path as long as they have that conversation with them about what their interest level is. So I don't know if I fully answered, but let's try.
We did get some clarity on that. And
okay.
The reply back was not in OT now, but exploring areas of interest, I believe, while they're in undergrad.
Good. And that's what they should be doing, right? It's time to explore. Yeah. And so they could, if they're interested in OT, speak with your advisor, certainly, and prep for that field if that's what you're interested in, or others, and that's a good opportunity to think about shadowing or learning more about different careers. The other thing I would say is we do have an occupational therapy doctorate. So for students that are undergrads now and say, gee, I want OT, and they want to stay at Quinnipiac for their OT because we have an excellent OT program, they could stay and get their doctorate in OT. If they didn't enter as freshmen into our combined master's program, they could say, well, gee, I think I'll get my doctorate, which is a terrific thing. So that's a good conversation to have with their advisor about their interest level in careers.
Great. So Colleen, someone has a question here. My son is in the physical therapy program and is a sophomore. Should he be doing an internship or shadowing this summer? And is there a certain number of hours required?
So I could answer that question with the COVID hat on or without. I need a COVID hat, Janelle. I think we should all have one of those. I'm going to put my COVID hat on. So the reality is, right, guys, this is tough. And they may not have an opportunity to shadow this summer. We don't know what the landscape is going to look like in healthcare. But bear that in mind that of course the program knows that it isn't going to be requiring something of them that they can't possibly do. So no, the requirement for our PT undergrads, and that's another chat with your advisor, okay, and confirm this, but they generally are not required to do much more than say 20 hours before they segue into the grad program. So they still have time. 20 hours isn't very much. If we can't do it this summer, no panic, right? They might not be able to. We're going to just hope that we get our kids back into the clinical field soon and be flexible in the meantime and forgiving if they cannot get into that experience right away.
Thanks, Colleen. And a question about biomedical sciences. Does a biomedical science student still have to take the FYS class in their second term?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So our first year seminar class is a really good choice for students to just learn a little bit about being a student, right? How to navigate the sort of college process and also how to be an inquisitive, critical thinker. So that's what the first year seminar class does. This year, first year seminar,
it was allowed for the students to maybe choose a different university curriculum course instead of first year seminar. So if they're not in it this year, this fall, if they want to take it in the spring, they can, but they're not required to take it as they used to be in the past. It's a bit flexible this year. We, again, COVID response tried to make things a little more flexible for the students and their choices.
Great. I think we are caught up on the questions. If there's anything else, you can just go ahead. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you want. I
truly email, the students can email SHS deans. That is really me and the other associate dean that I mentioned earlier, Shelley Candler. The two of us monitor that on a daily, hourly basis. And probably someone here in this room has had a response from us. So we do respond to that.
And what's fascinating about it, they are on that email all the time. So your response is going to be very quick from that email. So definitely do not hesitate for your student to use that. We share that with your son or daughter. And you do not hesitate to, if there's issues, to let us know. We're here to help. We're here to help your daughter get through this. That's what our job is. So. I do want to say, last thing here, I know we're just maybe about 10 minutes out or so. I want to thank you so much for choosing to be here today. I know that you're busy. I see some people, their faces there. I see a nice blue sky with clouds out there. I know you have choices and other places to be. It's Gene McKinney, it's the McKinneys. I do want to say you have choices about where you could be, and we really appreciate that you chose to be with us here today for this hour. I hope that you can stay around for some of the other sessions that we have scheduled for today. I think they're going to be impactful sessions and very informative for you as parents. And again, thank you so much for being here. Colleen and I will stay on. If you have any other questions or if you just want to chat, we're here to do that. So we'll stay on for you. If not, you can sign off. And it was great seeing you.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
Hi. May I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi. My daughter is a junior. She's in the 4+3 physical therapy.
Awesome.
And I know the Capstone project is something that's out there, and I don't know if that's something she should be looking to do next spring, this spring, or it's something more, appropriate for the senior year. And also just wanted to get a sense of, is there a certain topic that they have to choose? I assume it's something health science specific, but if you could give a little background on that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Are you okay? Want me to answer that, Janelle?
Yes, yes.
So Capstone is actually a class. It's a 3-credit class. So the students will register for that class. So for sure, again, talk to their academic advisor about the best semester to take it. Usually you take it senior year, either fall or spring. And it's really a cumulative or summative experience, sort of capping or combining your undergraduate, that university curriculum that I talked about earlier, with your graduate work or your professional major, and really recognizing how they're linked. So it is a class, and they do a project in the class. What's awesome about the School of Health Science Capstone is it's not the same class for every student. So we offer multiple sections of our Capstone with themes. And they have great themes, and we have wonderful professionals that teach the class. So the students get to choose one that they like. So for example, there's a mental health and addiction capstone. There's one on global public health. There's one on sort of more the business of healthcare side. Of course, now I can't think of the rest of them, but there's a ton of themes. And so when they register, they want to look for one that interests them. And I know that some of them just jump on, they ask their friends, of course, because what else do kids do? But so they should ask around, find something that interests them, and choose the class. It's a culminating experience. They don't really need to do a junior year. If they have nothing else to take for some reason, they could take it as a junior. But I'm guessing they have plenty of other things, and they could save it for their last year.
I do want to get to one other question that was put in the chat. It said, given the pandemic, do freshman PT majors, physical therapy majors, need to still decide between the 3-3 or the 4-3 this spring? So I will, the process that the physical therapy program always used was they begin those discussions in fall, and this probably is why you're asking this question. And so they engage in a discussion with their advisor for some guidance. And then basically what your son or daughter is asked to do is to take the time between fall, and they probably already had the conversations over the holidays, and then in spring, they're going to get back together to make those decisions. Now, I will tell you that in this kind of COVID world where things are a little uncertain, things are changing every probably 24 hours, if not sooner, there might be some flexibility in that. And again, Colleen and I keep mentioning, have your son or daughter contact your advisor, be in that constant communication. And if it gets to the point where it's difficult to make that decision to be in the 3+3 or the 4+3 option by spring, have your son or daughter reach out to their advisor. Those advisors are part of the program, so they can kind of adapt and adjust if they can adapt and adjust. So I think, you know, it's timely to be having those discussions, and I do think you need to take them seriously, but we understand that we are in a pandemic and things are changing. We're approaching flu season, and flu season with COVID, things are just changing. So definitely have your son or daughter reach out to their advisor and engage in those discussions. And if you need a longer period of time, I think your son or daughter should reach out to their advisor on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Janelle and I are laughing because we pretty much start everything we say now with, as of today, October 17th at 11:47, this is what's happening, because
It's just changing. It's a moving target. So yeah, they shouldn't panic about this yet. They got a lot of things to think about. So just chill a little about it, and they can have a good conversation with their academic advisor and see what's the right thing to do. And if they need to wait on that, I'm sure there's going to be some flexibility.
I have a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
Because it's COVID, it's obviously much harder for students to really get a feel of something, the remote environment, not having the opportunity to really talk with students just because of the protective nature that one has in this environment. I typed in earlier, my student is not in your area. She's in another area, College of Arts and Science. So from my perspective, speaking to the advisor wouldn't be as informative than speaking with an advisor that is in your area of the department that has the background and expertise. That's my assumption. I just want to make sure my logic is appropriate here.
I think I can.
Yeah, go ahead,
Do you want me
Janelle.
to start? You want me to start? So you know, I think this is an interesting question. So what I'm hearing is your son or daughter is in the College of Arts and Sciences, and they may be interested in health. You know, I will say we are health professionals, so we all have worked in these fields. So it would help you or your son or daughter to reach out. And Colleen, I don't want to put you on the spot like I usually do, but I will put you on the spot. But I always tell people to reach out to Colleen and start those conversations, especially if you're interested in health. We are the people that are health focused, and we work in the fields, and we can get you connected, or your son and daughter connected, not only to other students, if that's what your son and daughter, or those are who your son or daughter want to talk to, but also the faculty, and maybe even an opportunity to take as an elective, maybe an internship course where they could maybe engage in healthcare in some way. So I think it's beneficial to tap into resources that exist across the university to help your son and daughter get to where they need to be. And if that's part an advisor in College of Arts and Sciences and part some discussion with us, I think you need to do probably what's in the best interest of your student, which is to reach out to both. I don't think it hurts you at all. Colleen, would you add anything to that?
No, I agree with that. So do you mind if I just follow up? So is your student interested in a career in healthcare? Is that why you think they might be better talking with one of us?
Well, I always find it's always important to talk to the subject matter expert and not the person that may know something, but the subject matter expert, because they've been in that field and advised a lot of students and have worked, they're better able to listen at a different level and answer some questions and help uncover some other interests because you've been exposed and you've seen it. In my particular student scenario, he's been fortunate to bring in a lot of credits, even though she's a first-year student. But she has a keen interest in tying in the neurosciences, if you will, and that spans over in occupational therapy, from which she has told me as well. So she's really trying to explore what's the best way to tackle it in the meantime and still try to graduate graduate on time, and on time is relative, really, but
Sure.
on time given her efforts. And
Mhm.
so my thought was, I said, you probably need to talk to someone who's doing it first. It doesn't mean that you're trying to switch, but you're talking to someone that truly
Okay.
understands, and then you could work backwards from there. She has a bunch of courses. She's taking courses now. And with this COVID environment, the semester's coming up, and she's trying to decide, well, if I need to change classes, or what classes may fit if I do go over there. But I said, all that's good. Take the time to talk to someone who's been doing it for a while. She
Sure.
initially was going to go to and still is, loves research, was going to go to PhD route. But that may change based on what the timing of that may change, based
Sure.
on what she finds from talking with you and other students. But the thing that has linked her is the neuro component of it, and that's where she sees there's a bridge with her interests. And I can't really advise her on that, but you guys can. I just want to use the time efficiently.
For sure. So it would be good for her to send that email. The easiest thing for you is to remember shsdeans@qu.edu. And we can just direct her to the right person. So if she sends a nice email that has enough information, then we can direct her to the right person. It might be me. I might even
refer her. We have a faculty member in the Biomedical Sciences department in the School of Health
Yep.
Science who does neuro research. Professor Marioni does some cool stuff, and she teaches this neat class, pharmacology. Your daughter would have to wait a year or two to take that, but so that might be, and neuroanatomy she teaches. So we got some good stuff going on. And you're right, OT, occupational therapists also teach classes in things like functional neuroanatomy. So it would be a good conversation. Yeah, she needs to do a little research, but she's probably fine for spring, freshman, just taking straight up, get your classes done, but have that conversation with someone else and start doing her homework on that.
She's actually considered a junior right now. That's how many credits she brought in from a freshman year. So that's why she really wants to make sure she's talking with someone.
Absolutely. Yep. Sounds like a good plan.
Great.
Okay.
I did want to just end on a couple of questions. So someone had asked a question about the current status of the OT organization moving from master's requirement to a doctorate. It seems like they've moved away from this. What is the current status? Many schools are moving away from combined master's program to doctorate programs. So you're correct. So the OT profession actually had it on the docket to look at occupational therapy being an entry-level doctorate program, like physical therapy. But the last vote that happened, it didn't vote to make that change. So it still is master's entry level for occupational therapy. We have opted as a university that we believe is a leader in our fields to offer both. We are going to continue to offer our MOT, which is the Master's in Occupational Therapy, but we are also offering a clinical doctorate, an OTD. And right now our OTD is, and Colleen, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a post-baccalaureate offering right now. We are trying to think about how we could offer it as a direct entry program for freshmen, but that's not an offering right now. Or we offer a post-professional doctorate, and that's for people who already are in the occupational therapy field and want a clinical doctorate. So we are doing both as of right now because we have real strength in occupational therapy. So we're going to do both at this time until the professional field makes a different decision or whatever that decision might be. Colleen, there is a question about how often should a student be in touch with their advisor, which I think is a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So really, I mean, for sure, once a semester, right? Before they register for any classes, they need to meet with their academic advisor. And they can certainly hear from them more, whether they want to just have a conversation at another time, but at a minimum once per semester. And certainly I would recommend more often if you can, if nothing else by emails. I know some advisors will do some casual coffee chats or group advising, but one-on-one when it comes to actually, really pounding through registration and making sure they're on track for their academic requirements in their career.
Colleen, thank you. I'm going to say once again, thanks again. The Parents Town Hall starts started 1 minute ago. So we'll let you
Uh-oh.
go. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.